in this video, we're going to go over the finance real estate application problems in more detail. So it's really important to sort out like what you were trying to find. You don't necessarily need a letter to represent something. You can just write it out if you want. You're going to set up your problem. If applicable, use an equation. Then write everything out and plug it in. Solve your problem, showing your steps, and then interpret your answer in a sentence. And make sure you include your dollar signs and all that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through this and maybe leave the last few bits for you to do the answer part on your own. But I want to help you set it up and go over the vocabulary in a little more detail than in the first video with just the directions and tips. So we have Valerie. She's preparing to purchase a large house. So there's also some extraneous information in here that we don't necessarily need. So kind of think about that too for some of the problems. The house is listed and assessed at $1,350,500. To complete the purchase, she goes to her bank seeking an $800,000 loan. The bank is willing to give her a 30-year fixed interest loan at 4%. Due to the size of the house, the taxes and cost of insurance are significant. The bank requires Valerie to place money in an escrow account to cover 6 months of homeowners insurance and property taxes. So escrow is something in the bank so that they're going to have that set aside and it'll cover half a year, and it's going to be whatever her homeowners insurance plus the property taxes is. So the annual insurance premium is $20,000, but again, we're only doing it for half a year, so think about that. Property taxes have a scale factor of $11.75 per $1,000 assessed value, and you can kind of figure that out any way you want. There's multiple kinds of ways. I used a proportion when I did it, so I'll show you how I set this up. So A would be find the amount she needs to deposit. Can be brief here in the escrow account, right? So what that is going to be the insurance plus the property tax. But it's whatever that is divided by 2. Right? So we have to cut each of those things in half because it's going to be on an annual basis. So kind of think about that. So for the insurance, that one's kind of quick. That's just going to be the $20,000 divided by 2, which would be $10,000 for 6 months. But the property tax, it's a little more involved to figure out. You could do a proportion. You could say if it's $11.75 per 1,000, that would equal X dollars per her $1,350,500. So we've done some of this stuff in the ratio rate proportion unit, the problem solving unit, and those sorts of things. So this isn't really more of a standard formula. It's just kind of however you can sort it out. So then I'm going to cross multiply. You could do that, or you could do it as just, kind of divide these out and so on and so forth, however you want to solve it. But I just cross multiplied, and when I did that, I got for an answer for X, I ended up with $15,868.38. I'll just round off there. But then I have to divide that in 2 to get it for the 6 months, right? So the property tax for 6 months is going to be whatever that is. You can cut it in half. $7,934, and I'll just round to 19 cents. So this is really parts A, B, and C, showing out the steps. B and C on this one kind of run together. You don't necessarily have to list out A, B, C, D, but it's just helpful to make sure you have all the elements. Then the last part is interpreting that and putting it all together. So I'll leave that for you to do. You have this 1,000 plus this 7,934, and you can round to the nearest dollar. Or if you want to round up, here it says round to the nearest dollar. This really came from a real estate guide, and that's what they had you do, and it was multiple choice. But you may want to put in an extra amount just to make sure that you have enough. So I would take either version of that, which is fine. So you would finish this out, but just add those two together and write it in a sentence, and that'll be good for number 1. So for number 2, we have Danya owns a mall. 8 years ago, she bought the property for $625,000, and the value of the property increased to $790,750 as of the previous year. Last year, she took in $294,500 in rental income from her tenants and had the operating costs of $65,360. This year, the property is expected to take in $300,360 in total rent and cost $70,200 to operate. The rental income is expected to be the same percentage of the property value as the previous year. What is the estimated value for this year based on the rental money it generates? Okay, so that's what we're trying to find is A. We have to find the estimated value for this year. Okay. And in order to do that, we need to know the percentage. So we also need to figure out the percentage of the ratio, basically, of the income to value from last year so that we can use that. Okay, so I'm just going to put that off to the side. So that's a stepping stone there. So again, B and C kind of run together here, but a little bit. But what I want you to focus on figuring out what the percentage is. So we're going to look at the percentage equaling income. So it's really the net income over the property value for last year. So to get the net income, we need to subtract what she took in. Right here, we have to take what she took in and subtract the costs, $65,360. So that's going to give us this value here. So we can just do percentage would be $294,500 minus $65,360. Okay, all divided by property value of last year, which is this $790,750. And that percent comes out to be about 0.2897, so on and so forth. You can just leave that in your calculator if you wanted to use it, but I would say just go out a few places. That'll be fine for this one. And then once we have that percentage, that's what this is, we have to use that and predict what it's expected to happen in this year. So we're going to say that the property value, so we're going to write a little different variation of the formula. Property value for this year is equal to the income net for this year divided by the percentage that we found here. Okay. So in order to do that, we just need to look at what we're given here is she's expected to take in $300,000. I'm going to just write that off to here. $360,000, and the cost will be $70,200, and we're going to divide that by the percentage here, 0.2897, and you'll come up with a value there. Okay, I'll write this a little better for you. Okay, so it would be, just go ahead and calculate those values and write down your answer and then put it into a sentence, and I'll let you finish that up on your own for part D. Okay, so you're going to finish up. You're going to calculate this and then write your sentence. For number 3, we have Charles is preparing to buy a house for which he has accepted an offer of $825,000 with the contingency that he needs to sell the current house to cover the 20% down payment on this $825,000. His current house is listed for $575,000 with a balance remaining on the mortgage of $410,000. So we want to make sure that he sells that at enough. Let's see if it works. Assuming he has enough to set aside already to cover any other inspection or closing costs, what is the minimum price that Charles can accept and still make his goal? So first of all, we need to figure out what he has to do in the down payment. Okay, so we need to find his down payment on new house, and then plus the balance remaining on old house. So we're looking at the sum of that equals what he has to get for the old house. So money for offer. Okay, so let's see how that lines up. So what is 20,000 of the new house? I mean 20%. 20% of the new house would be 0.2 times 825,000. Okay, and then we're going to add to that this value here, what he still owes, and then I'll let you finish that one up and see if that works. Okay, so again, kind of these run together, and then you're gonna calculate those and write in a sentence. For this last one, we have Tosh purchases a building to house her restaurant. The purchase price was $751,500, and she was required to provide a 15% down payment. So we don't know what the mortgage is. The rest was covered through a mortgage, but we're not given that. But we can figure that out based on this information. 13 years later, the property has risen to a value of $823,000. That's considered the assessed value or appraised value. She needs funds to pay for renovating the restaurant and is considering using some of the property's equity. If 40% of the loan principal has been paid back, the principal that from the mortgage, how much equity is available to Tosh? So first of all, you need to know that equity, sorry, my dog's having issues, equals appraised value minus the remaining balance. So we have to figure out those two things. Okay, so I wrote some things down here for you to sort it out. So we've got the part we want to find is what the equity is. In order to do that, we need to know the appraised value, which is given in the problem, the $823,000. And then from that, we've got to subtract off the remaining balance. But in order to get there, we need to first know the original mortgage. So the purchase price was $751,500, and the 15% down payment was made. So we can take that off of the $751,500. A good way to do that is to think of it as if you paid 15% down, what you really had left is 100% minus 15% would be 85% remaining, right? So that we can just write out here as 0.85 times the 751,500. Okay, we can do that, or we could take 15% of this number. We could, an alternate is to do 0.15 times 751,500 and subtract that, whatever that comes out to be, off the purchase price. Or you could think of it as I'm paying 85% of the purchase price is going to be my mortgage. Okay, so if we calculate that out, then we would have, that comes out to be $638,775. Okay, and then the remaining balance, we have to use this value here. The original mortgage, again, 40% was paid off, so that means there's 60% remaining, right? So you could either do 40% of this and then subtract it from that, or you could just say, well, there's 60% remaining, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply 0.6 times 638,775 and figure out what that equals. So you can do that part on your own, and that would be the remaining balance. And then you're going to take this formula up here and use that and plug this value, subtract it from the 823,000, and that will be your equity. And again, you're going to write in a sentence. So that should give you enough to go on, and you just have to do the last few steps here, okay? So I hope that helps you to pluck out all the important information. You can see where for some of the problems, there was extra numbers in there that we didn't necessarily need for this particular time. Maybe they would pertain to something else, a different question, or what's going on in general for this scenario. Have a great day.